about running away from you. After all you said and done, don't want to stay with you. It seems like everything we could have done has passed us by. Yeah, I got to get moving. I'm tired of grooving with someone who can't get out. Don't chase me around, you're bringing me down.
What's up, vinyl community? YouTube. Welcome to Cosmic Vinyl. I'm Cosmic Brian, your host. And you're in the cosmic realm. Welcome to it. We're going to have a good time. This is part 2 of the... oh, God, I put it clear. It's so far away I can't reach it. Now you guys got to look at my groin right in the camera. It's not much to look at. You're going to have to get a zoom lens. Anyway, I did a part 1 video to this. I showed the Once Upon a Time soundtrack, which is the featured vinyl in this video, I guess mini series. What I did is I showed this, and then I showed all the songs that are on here. I showed an album related to those songs, whether it be the original album that had that song on it by the artist, or maybe a compilation or something. I call it the family tree kind of effect, or something to that effect, or like, and I was kind of showing them in order of appearance, the songs on the soundtrack in the movie, and maybe telling a little bit about the scene that was going on while the song was playing in the movie. If you haven't seen this movie, it is absolutely amazing. If you're like me and you like the 60s era at all, which I absolutely dig the clothes, I dig the music, I just dig the whole vibe, even though I was only 1. I mean, I was born in 65, but I just love it. I love, especially the music. So, and when I heard the soundtrack, I've watched this movie probably 12 times, and the soundtrack is one of the things that hooked me in immediately. I love just about every song on it. So, if I didn't already have it in my collection on like the album that it was originally on, I was seeking after to try and find the ones I didn't have that I wanted. So anyway, I did part 1 already, went through several things: Deep Purple, Paul Revere and the Raiders. I showed Paul Simon or Simon and Garfunkel. There was a bunch of, like, the Association. I just showed a bunch of albums associated with this soundtrack. So I'm going to continue that trend on this part 2. And I'll give you one more good look at this. This is just a beautiful cover art. Here's the gatefold. And the movie is about a past his prime a TV cowboy actor who's trying to bust into movies, and he's still kind of stuck in the ways of the old Hollywood. In contrast with the up-and-coming new Hollywood Sharon Tate with her groovy and trend-setting ways. And then you throw in the backdrop of Charles Manson family, and you've got quite a story, a fairy tale, if you will. Lots of the characters in this are real characters who actually existed or do exist to this day. With the exception of some of our a couple with Brad Pitt's character and Leo DiCaprio's character, but they are sure based on characters who did exist. And it's basically Quentin Tarantino's his retelling of how it actually went. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to start doing the family tree thing, start showing the albums that went with the soundtrack. So I do have the movie here on DVD. Alright, here we go. I basically left off with the scene where Cliff Booth, got into a fight with Bruce Lee on the set of Green Hornet, which was hilarious. And the song was Time for Living. Now I'm moving on to a song called Jenny Takes a Ride. Jenny Takes a Ride is by Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. I don't know why Mitch Ryder doesn't get more love in the VC. This guy kills. He's, and especially live, he's just like all over the place. And he's just a dynamo. He's one of those like, almost kind of like a Blue-Eyed Soul kind of artist. Kind of bluesy and, you know, I'm sure he takes his influence from the great blues artists and like the Stones did and the Who and the Beatles that came before him. So anyway, this is a cool little record. I got it at a garage sale for like $1. This is Mitch Ryder, all Mitch Ryder's hits. So the song is called Jenny Takes a Ride, and the scene is actually Sharon Tate walks into a theater, and she they don't even recognize her to begin with, but they do end up letting her in. But she goes in, and on the movie screen, that when she walks into the theater itself is a preview of the movie Cece and Company, starring Joe Namath and Anne Margaret. I friggin' loved that movie. I seen it when I was a kid, and I just absolutely loved those biker, those biker exploitation movies. And you know, he's on the soundtrack of that film, and which made it on the soundtrack of this film. And it's just the song is just gets you. And you know what? I'm having a deja vu. I'm either having a deja vu moment, or I did talk about this in the last video. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to the next thing because I think I did talk about it. By the way, I am a fan of Joe Namath, man. I used to love Broadway Joe back in the day. He always wore like the fur coats, man. He styled back then. I don't care what anybody says, man. You know, whether his career was short and he had bad knees and, you know, he wore pantyhose on a commercial. Joe Namath back then he was a god. I don't care. Anyway, the next, oh my God, I forgot to take off my sunglasses. We got to do this now because I got to get these off. I got to be able to see. I got to see, people. Off with the glasses. Off with the shades. On with see. New specs. All right. Let's get back into this. God, I can't believe I forgot that bit. Oh, well. This next record is probably one of my favorites and another of my favorite songs on the soundtrack. I didn't know when I heard the song on the soundtrack, I didn't know who the artist was, and I'd never heard the song before, but it's called Bring a Little Lovin', and it's by Los Bravos. For those of you who aren't sure maybe who Los Bravos is, Los Bravos was famous mostly for the song called Black is Black. Black is black, I want my baby back. Baby back, baby back, baby back. No, it doesn't go like that. It goes just, I want my baby back. But anyway, I'm telling you, their music is not easy to find. It's just not something you run into all the time. So I went online because I wanted it, and I loved the song. And boy, the records were expensive, especially for an OG of Bring a Little Lovin'. So what I did is I kept looking and looking, and I found this, and I've only seen this one copy, and the guy gave me a great deal on it. It's their first Mexican pressing of this record, and it's Ilustrísimos Bravos, and it features the song Negro es Negro and Tengo un amorcito, Tengo un amorcito. And then they all got shirts on like Futuro, Libertad, Amor, Deseo, Arte. It's just a flimsy cover because it's actually a Mexican release. I've never seen that before. It's got all the songs, like it's like a hits almost comp. It's got Black is Black. It's got Bring a Little Lovin'. It's got a bunch of their other songs too. It's a great record. I was lucky to get this for a pretty cheap price. And this is great, like power pop, border on psych, not garage, but more, I'd call it a power pop of its day. And oh, it's just, the Bring a Little Lovin' is just a great song. And during the movie, it plays, I can't even remember, let me think here. I think it's playing while, you know, Cliff and Rick are driving around to Hollywood in the car. So, but yeah, it's just a great record. It's part of the soundtrack. Ooh, listen to this. Woohoo! Vanilla Fudge. Oh God, that friggin', I need to get in there and take that volume button apart, and it's got so much static when I turn it. Somebody told me if I get in there and just clean it out, it'll stop. But I tried to just crank it back and forth to clear it. It didn't work. So it's really been a pain, and it's not very pleasing to the ears either. Another one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack is Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show. Now, I haven't always been a fan of Neil Diamond, but you know, as the more I listen to his music, I absolutely love Neil Diamond. And I'm actually on my list right now, my want list and look for list, is the actual album of Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show. Another one is his first greatest hits album, like of his early stuff. And there's a couple other records I wouldn't mind having it as well. But the one I have right now that does have the song Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show is this live record. This is recorded live at the Troubadour in LA, so how appropriate for a movie about Hollywood. And it's a pretty cool record. The version of Brother Love is kind of an acoustic version on this, and so it's not near as good as the studio version, but it's pretty good. It's still good, and it's a good show. I like this album. This is dollar bin stuff or bargain bin stuff, so you can find this anywhere. There's Neil on the back there. So yeah, I'm pro Neil Diamond, man. He never gets any love in the VC either. I'd like to get the cover that has like the medicine wagon on the front, or you know, like the guy would be selling like a snake oil salesman would travel around in, and it's kind of got that vibe to it. There's actually that cover, and then there's just a cover with Neil on the front, but and they're hard to come by as well, and there can be a little spendy too. So I'm looking for that one, and I'm also got my eyes on the early greatest hits, so I'm gonna pick that up. But until up to this point, it's continued to elude me. So the song is great. There's a great scene that goes with the song on the movie. Brad Pitt's character, Cliff Booth, is at the stoplight in Rick's beautiful Cadillac, and this girl that they've been kind of crossing paths back. It's one of Manson's girls. She's hitchhiking, and the song is playing on the radio, and he picks her up, and eventually he gives her a ride to Spawn Ranch, and that would explain the cover that the gatefold that I showed you, why he's there. But just fits the scene. It's a great song, great addition to the soundtrack. So Next song is a song by Paul Revere and the Raiders. Again, it's not on this album, but this album actually made an appearance on the movie itself. I the only album I have with this song, the song is called Mr. Sun, Mr. Moon. It's a great, great power pop song for the 60s. This is funny because I actually, bought a Paul Revere album at this thrift shop, and I thought there was something rattling around inside it. So when I opened it up, there was this 45, and this is the 45 from Mr. Sun, Mr. Moon. And on the flip is a song called Without You. And I thought, gosh, that's a cool little find to have it, and it's in great condition. So I was stoked to find. It's like a Cracker Jack box. I found an extra prize in there. And anyway, I love that song. It's just a great power pop song. I'm gonna keep going on. Paul Revere and the Raiders were really, they love their music. So yeah, I just need to get a couple more of their records the stuff I want. So yeah, that song I believe was playing. Maybe they were on, I think that Cliff was at the Spawn Ranch. Squeaky was sitting with the rest of the family in Mr. Spawn's house, and they're all watching TV, and they're just laying about. I'm sure they're high and whatnot, and they're watching a show called The Happening, and Paul Revere and the Raiders are on there playing that song. So like I said, Quentin Tarantino knows how to do a soundtrack, and it's a good one. You should pick it up. What else do I got? This is somebody that who hasn't heard of this artist? I mean, I have, but I've never thought to buy any of his music. But I was going through a bargain bin, and I found this record for 99 cents. It was in great shape. It was part of the soundtrack, and I loved the song, so I had to have it. There's a version of the song California Dreamin' on the soundtrack, but it's not the Mamas and Papas version. It's by Jose Feliciano. And I don't know if you're familiar with his records, but Jose Feliciano covered a lot of songs, and he kind of did it in his own, like, kind of flamenco, kind of Latino slash kind of folky almost, but oh god, he's just, I listened to this record and I was just like transfixed by his voice and the passion with which he sang. It's not rocking at all. It's just he takes a song like Light My Fire, which is featured on this album, and he just makes it his own, and he like a singer-songwriter, but with a Latin feel to it. And boy, I'll tell you what, I really, really like this record a lot. And this song is playing as Cliff, Brad Pitt's character, is driving away from the Spawn Ranch after having beat the shit out of a hippie for puncturing his tire on Rick's car. Great scene, by the way. But yeah, I highly recommend. The thing is, I've listened to some of his other albums. They tend to all sound a little bit the same, but this particular album is a great album. I listen to this like at night when I come home, winding down at the end of the day. Good stuff. Jose Feliciano. Again, another very well-placed song in the soundtrack. It's a Rolling Stones song. For some reason, I'm sure it had to do with copyright or whatever. did not land its way onto the actual soundtrack that was released. So I'm sure they probably couldn't come to agreement with the Stones people about it. And but the song is called "Out of Time," and oh my God, I love that friggin' song. It's so killer. We gotta have some music here, people. And that song, and actually, I think initially appeared on one of the Stones records called Aftermath. Whoa. And, which I don't have that record. And actually, I thought I had it, but, I don't have the version that has the song on it. So, apparently it's on, I think it's only on the British version, the UK version. So anyway, I did find it on another record, and this is a great compilation of the Stones album. It's the Flowers record, and it looks very psychedelic, and oh God, just a great record. It's got Ruby Tuesday, it's got Let's Spend the Night Together, Lady Jane, oh my God, I love that song. Mother's Little Helper. God, this is just chock full of great Stones songs. But my favorite song on this and on the movie soundtrack itself is a song called Out of Time. So great. It's just a killer song. It's kind of slow and melancholy a little bit, and it's got like a little poppy feel to it, and I don't think I'd ever heard it before the movie, so I was so glad. And I've been eyeballing this record for a long time, and I was finally able to get a good deal on this copy. It's got a little staining around it. I might even be able to get that off, but I got a really good deal on this, and the vinyl itself plays very good, so I'm down for that. And the song, and while the song's playing, it was such a well-placed song on the soundtrack. It's got Rick Dalton had went to Rome to be in spaghetti westerns, and he had got a few movies under his belt while he was there. Some great and he ended up being quite famous over there in Italy, and he ended up marrying one of his co-stars and brought her back to America, and it's them coming off the plane, walking down into the airport, and they're playing Out of Time as they're walking, and it's just a great song. So Stones, Out of Time, and if you check out that Flowers album, it's killer. It's a nice collection of the Rolling Stones. The next song is Straight Shooter by the Mamas and Papas. Now, it's not actually performed by the Mamas and Papas on the soundtrack. It's performed by the gal who plays Abigail Folger, who was out with Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring and Wojciechowski, I think his name was. He's he's a Polish fellow who is a friend of Roman Polanski's, who was hanging at the house. Roman's actually off making a film in Europe, and Jay and this Wojciechowski, I know I'm butchering it, and Abigail Folger and Sharon are hanging out together, and she's playing the piano, and she sings the song Straight Shooter, which is on this album here, which is If You Can Believe Your Eyes and Ears, the Mamas and the Papas. I see these around quite a bit. This does have California Dreamin' on it and Monday Monday. This is actually a really great album. So yeah, check that out. The next one is I'm just going to show this other Mamas and Papas record because they actually do play another song off this. It's called 12:30 Young Girls Are Coming to the Canyon. It didn't make it onto the soundtrack, But God, this song is really, really good, and the way it fits into the context of the film, you know, it's almost eerie. It's almost kind of creepy in a way. So, but yeah, it's on this record. This record actually makes an appearance as well on the movie. So, it's part of Sharon's record collection. So, the next one is. This is so. This is kind of a almost like I almost showed this in a video for my oh God, I can't think of it. It'll come to me. For an album that was kind of a oh geez, I can't think of it. Anyway, I'm just gonna go back. This is Snoopy versus this is the Royal Guardsmen, and it's Snoopy versus the Red Baron. Now, how this made it onto the soundtrack is that Rick Dalton they'd been out drinking all night, and Rick makes a pitcher of margaritas, and he's sitting on a raft in a swimming pool with headphones on, and he's actually, you can hear him singing this song as he's listening to it with headphones. And novelty album, that's what I was trying to say. I was going to show this as a novelty record on another the vinyl tag. I like this. This is kind of garagey. It's got Little Red Riding Hood, which, you know, most people know that by Sam Sham and the Pharaohs. It's got the Battle of New Orleans, Alley-Oop, Bo Diddley, Jolly Green Giant. Yeah, I dig this record, and you know, they've got the typical like 60s garage band look, you know, like the Blues Magoos and that bob hairstyle. So yeah, I picked this up in town here at a thrift store. I was amazed to score this record. So, but yeah, that made it. It didn't make it on the soundtrack, but it makes it into my video for the soundtrack. So, and now the final record. I know it's been long and arduous, but this is the culmination and how Quentin really gives you the killer ending with the scene that just blows people's minds and how he alters history. Cliff and Rick have just gotten back from being out all night drinking, and they're just kind of chilling at home. Cliff has smoked an acid-laced cigarette, so he's kind of tripping. And Manson family is bearing down on the house on Cielo Drive, just like they did that night back then when the horrible, violent home invasion of Roman Polanski's house, where all those people were murdered. So. But it'll surprise any. I'm not going to spoil it. But this song, Cliff is actually playing it on the stereo, on a nice Marantz receiver stereo, by the way. He cranks it up. And a song off of this by the band Vanilla Fudge, You Keep Me Hanging On. It's actually, there's allusions of my childhood as it's like an intro to the You Keep Me Hanging On. And it's just it fits so well to the song. This is actually the first Psych album I ever got. When I first got back into vinyl, this was one of the first records I picked up. As you could see back then, didn't care what my record cases looked like, so I'm due for an upgrade. It's got some masking tape on it, and as long as it played, I was okay with it. But yeah, this is something I picked up early on when I got back into vinyl collecting. Remember Carmine Appice I showed you on that last video with the gender bender? There he is right there as a young fella. He was in the King Cobra band. Anyway, that's it. That's if you like that idea, I promise it won't be as long, but this was a double album, so I went for it. You could do it with a compilation album. You could do it with a soundtrack. It's just kind of a, pick and choose thing, what you wanted to do. And I didn't have to show all the records. I just chose to show as many as possible because I wanted to show off what I had in my collection. Anyway, I know this is long, and I'm sorry if you don't. you know, if you don't want to sit through it, you don't have to. Don't watch it, I guess. I want people to watch my stuff, and I can't help it, man. Once I get going, I go. It seems like fun to me. It seems like 20 minutes when I know it's 40. So, anyway, if you guys like this, let me know. Otherwise, check out some of those records and definitely check out the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and dig on the soundtrack too. All right, Vinyl Community YouTube, I love you guys, man. Peace be with you guys. One last drink. I'll catch you guys next time. Oh boy, that's tasty. Vinyl Richie, it's good beer, man. Good beer. All right, you guys have a good one, man. I'll catch you next time. Be excellent to one another.